Recording has started. Councillor Heron.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the decision days of myself, the Executive Lead Member for Children's Services, as well as the Executive Member for Education. These decision days are being broadcast in one session live on YouTube via the County Council's website. Welcome to everybody. I would just say I have received a note from Councillor Neville Penman, Chair of the Select Committee. He's unfortunately unable to attend as a meeting that he's with has run on, so he's asked just to note his apologies. Going into the agenda for my meeting, deputations, I haven't received notice of any. So going straight on to item 1, which is permission to consult on proposed changes to post-16 policy. John, I think you're presenting this one for us.
Thank you, Councillor Heron. Yes, we wish to advise you on, as Executive Lead Member, of proposed changes to the school transport post-16 policy and to seek permission to go to public consultation on those proposals. Consultation would open on the 30th of October and run through till the 6th of December. So we've avoided the school holidays. And the post-16 policy, we're required to consult on that annually and publish a new policy every year in May. The proposed changes to the policy are relatively small compared with previously. What we are proposing to do is to put a annual uplift of the charges for discretionary services, transport services, by the consumer price index each year, and to sort of build that into the policy such that there are no kind of big jumps. It's just incremental over time. And I'd like to remind you that still leaves the majority, a large majority of the cost covered by Hampshire County Council, and that contribution is waived for families on a low income or in receipt of free school meals, and there is the facility for families to pay in instalments, so that kind of eases the burden across the financial year. And then the other changes to that policy are minor changes in wording to align with the full school transport policy that will come on to the next item, and particularly sort of guidance we've received from the Department for Education and from the local government social care ombudsman on certain items that we need to just update. And then there'll be changes to terminology. For example, just now we now refer to people as passenger assistants rather than school escorts.
Thank you very much. It is, I do note in sort of paragraph 9 that in 22-23, over 3/4 of the people who helped support him didn't make a contribution. So I don't think increases are ever welcome to anybody, but I do think it's sensible to consult on using CPI rather than having big jumps in the future. Councillor Porter, I think you wanted to say something on this paper.
Yes, thank you. And we did explore last year very thoroughly the principle of how many children actually get this for free, and also the massive rise that you're left with if you don't update this every year. So I do welcome that. And I welcome the clarity of the paper, and I understand that challenge of the cost increasing, much as we don't really want it to happen, that's where it is. But there is one point in there where it talks about offering or working with parents to perhaps for the parents to take the children to school. And this was something we raised before, because taking public or even specific school transport without parents is a big step for many children, particularly children with special needs. And it's a concern that many will lose their independence if they don't have every opportunity to use public transport, if they can do so, or even specific transport for themselves. And there's a section in there about travel training, and I know that's been put in to support one particular college that's working really hard on that. And I really would be very keen to see travel training to maintain independence into adulthood for every young person, actually, not just those that go to special schools. But I think it's of particular interest here to maintain that travel training, so that when someone does go back into just getting in their parents' car, they don't lose the independence that perhaps they once had up to 16. And I wanted to add that in. So I think it's a point to make when we're getting the consultations back, to look at how many people feel that their child loses that independence into adulthood.
Jackie, I think the independent training point is really important. I think, though, I think it's important to make it clear that there may be some to whom this isn't something that's suitable, and I think it's important to make it that this is an appropriate offer. This isn't, but we expect every young person that we're supporting is going to be able to benefit from that. John, do you want to just say something about the offer around alternative ways for parents to support the travel? Do you want to say anything to say at that point?
It's more dealt with in the other, in the main paper, because there's several things in the main paper that would also apply to kind of post 16. So I think is it probably better to take it at that point.
Fine, happy to come back there, because I think that's useful. But let's go sit around and see if anyone else has any comment to me. With that, I'm going to welcome Councillor Penman from his car, having given his apologies. Thank you, Neville, for managing to get here. But I'm not seeing anyone else indicating that they wish to speak, in which case I will go to the recommendations at 2, which, as I say, just be clear at this point, it is merely agreeing to go out to consultation, and I'm happy to agree that recommendation.
Thank you.
So that now takes us to item 2 on the agenda, which is permission to consult on the changes to the school transport policy. John, over to you to introduce the paper.
Thank you. Again, the purpose of the report is to advise you on proposed changes to the main school transport policy. Again, we're seeking permission to consult, and again, unlike the previous one, there's no legal requirement to consult every year, but we do need to consult if we propose to make changes to the policy. The background, I think, is important to say here. I think people are aware that it's a challenging position for school transport financially, but these changes do not set out any changes to eligibility for school transport, and there is no expected savings. That's not the point of what they're there to do. The changes are really there to increase the flexibility available to parents and the service in the ways that we can fulfil our statutory duty to transport children that are eligible for school transport to make sure they're getting to school. Is it sort of worth going through the proposals one by one and then having people's comments on those, or would you like me to go through the whole thing?
John, to be honest, I think hopefully everyone has read the report, and I think, as you say, at this stage, this is going out to consultation. This is not a decision. So unless there's anything particularly you want to highlight, I think we can take it as read.
Okay. I think the point that we brought forward from the last one about independent travel training, which is the second proposal, is very much that what we're seeking to do with this is to introduce the ability to introduce independent travel training. We're not in any way set on what that might be, what that might look like, and we would seek to co-develop that with parents groups and hopefully including the voice of children as far as possible.
Oh, thank you. And before I go, Jack, I think equally I just want to highlight here that proposal 1, which I am really pleased we're consulting on for the personal transport budgets. I think it's really clear to make here that in the consultation, I think it's clear that this is an additional offer. This is not a requirement for someone to take up. This is a potential offer if it's agreed. Jackie, Councillor Porter, come to you for your comments, and I think some of them will be from the, and I do understand that.
No, I'm going to leave that because I think that's been well rehearsed, really. But and I'm going to put a little bit of realism in for some of my schools where yesterday we had a school that was very nearly rejected by a regulatory committee because of parental school transport, and it's a real challenge to have the balance between parents taking children to school and parents walking to school and children walking to school, and I completely understand that. So the proposed change to the school policy, and I noticed that unfortunately the guidance that came out from national government didn't actually really provide any additional clarity whatsoever. But it is good to have it in this paper, because I think it's much easier for parents to understand if it's right there in their face on that same policy. And my question is it guidance, or does it change the does it overlap on previous case law? So does that make a difference? We had a couple of cases where actually it was about walking distances and car distances, and I just wondered if the case law still exists from before that guidance was issued, or whether this guidance will somehow overtake it. But my main issue I'm raising here is really a campaigning issue, really, which is I continue to be concerned that the inequity exists for children in rural areas to go to school before they're of school age. And I realise that this consultation is on children of nationally the curriculum, you know, within the school age, but those children who are 4 and 5 that are going to schools, parents are driving them there. And parents are choosing, they have to send their child to school, because if not, they lose their place. So choosing not to send your school is not an option as it used to be. You used to be able to keep them at nursery and then send them when they were 5. And now that pressure is on them to make a decision to go to school when they're 4. But in rural areas, the parents are still having to pay for those children to go to school. I know it doesn't affect that many children, but there are still a number. And I feel that there should be something in this consultation that at least brings this to light. I realise that it's a statutory consultation about proposed changes to school transport policy, but there is a bit about Hampshire County Council's policy, which I accept is the national policy, but whether there's anything we can do about it. The one thing I do really appreciate is changing the title of privileged places to spare capacity seats. Privileged places implies that someone gets it by privilege or by paying more than somebody else. And I know that to some extent that's true, but it's only if there's spare capacity on that bus. And the public do have a view of what a privileged seat is. So I'm really pleased the name is going to be changed to spare capacity seats. But I just want to make a plea for those under 5s. We are having some problems at the moment, one of the schools I represent, and I know that it's a challenge for the school transport team as well. Thank you.
Can I first on that issue say it's one I recognise, because far enough away, my nephew's child has exactly this problem. They're in a rural school, actually in my division, and there isn't capacity for them to buy an extra space. So what they've done is stop their eldest, who goes to the same school, stop their transport until they're younger, because there was no point in putting one on the bus and then following it in the car. What I would say is a couple of things. One, I don't think that's something to consult on, because I don't think it's something we can do anything about. I think that, you know, if we were not in the situation where, you know, we've gone from 16 million to 34 million to 50 million in cost, we might look. I would equally say, and I think this is one where all supporting our continued lobbying, and you'll know the lobbying I and the leader have done on this. The problem with the current legislation on school transport is it so prescribes things that we are perhaps transporting at taxpayers' expense those who might be able to contribute comfortably to their child's transport. We're transporting at taxpayers' expense someone who is just outside the walking distances, but might have an excellent and adequate walk to school because there's no discretion. And the problem with removing that discretion is it leaves absolutely no funding available, even in the days that we can remember when there was such a thing as discretionary council spending, to fund those things that we discuss and think, well, actually, that's where we would put the money, such as, for example, supporting those who are below statutory school age but attending school. So I take the point on board, but I don't think we can consult on something that we neither have the ability and certainly not the money to do anything about.
I appreciate that, but I think it's a point that needs to be made, and the parents that are seeking to go to school have still got that challenge to meet.
And I agree. And can I also welcome your comments around the privileged seat, because I think that there was a number of problems with the word privileged seat. And the first one, I think, for me was a parent expectation that there would be one. And I think using the spare spaces makes it absolutely clear that it's clearly unfortunately it's down to the fortune of what transport that is put on, not any indication of it. On the guidance versus case law, I'm going to see if John wants to comment or whether he wants to hold that over and get someone to come back to you.
In conversation with the DfE, they said they tried to bring in everything from case law. So I know there's certain things in case law have definitely been brought in. I'm a bit new to this to be able to reel off the case law myself, so I couldn't give you a chapter and verse on it. But they did, when we were talking to them, they did try and bring in anything that they knew about.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Let's hope we have a change to the, I think it's the 1940s legislation, and that will have an opportunity to sort this all out. I look round to see if anyone else has got their hands up for comment. I can't see anybody, in which case I will go to the recommendation at 2, which again is to agree for consultation, and I'm happy to approve that. So with that, I am going to hand over to Councillor Forster for his executive member decision day, and thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you,
Steve.
Councillor Heron, Edward, thank you so much, and thank you for covering that nice and promptly. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my decision day, which I'll leap straight in. We've got 2 reports to go through. The video continues, so we won't interrupt that. Firstly, I understand there are no deputations received, so that enables us to go straight to item 3 then, the additional specialist education provision, which I understand, Natalie, you're going to be presenting to us, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to look at a satellite provision for a special school with the intention of creating 12 additional places for children with severe learning difficulties from January 2024. You'll know that we have a really significant pressure in terms of school places, and that is due to the increasing number of education, health and care plans. And because we have not currently got enough provision within our Hampshire schools, there's been an increase in very expensive placements within the independent and non-maintained sector, the INMSS sector. So we hope to build on current good quality Hampshire school provision to meet the needs of an additional 12 young people through this proposal. So the Riverside School that we're proposing a satellite from provides specialist support for 137 pupils currently with moderate learning difficulties, SLD and autistic spectrum disorders, and the additional pupils won't fit, and additional pupils in particular come through the tribunals route, because if a tribunal rules that a child needs to attend the school, then even if this is in addition to their number enrolled, then the school needs to find a place for them. With the school, Riverside School currently being full, in fact it's taken 1 additional pupil currently, it's really key that we open up this extra provision as soon as possible. The provision is intended to be in Mill Hill Primary School, which has available accommodation in an adjoining building. It's currently rented to Growing Places, so they use it for after school and holiday provision, and a community pantry. And what is great about this is that the building is big enough that this could all remain, and an addition 2 classrooms with external facilities can be carved out, segregated for use by the Riverside School. And the cost of making this provision available, the works, is in the region of £350,000, and we expect that the funding that would go to the pupils of 215,000, therefore, and will within 2 years be made back by placing them into this provision. The detailed kind of costs around that are in the appendix, which is in page 61 of the packs, the explanation for that. But it's a combination of the place funding per pupil and the steps that we additionally fund them by according to their level of need. So it's a good news story, really, that we've managed to find a provision that can be converted that quickly to meet the needs of these young people. So I was wondering if anyone had any questions.
Thank you, Natalie. That was really thorough and the report is excellent. Before I comment on it, I understand Councillor Porter, Jackie, you have requested to speak on this item.
Yes, please. It's really good to have additional spaces and we all desperately need those for the children, and hopefully it will be an opportunity to upskill the people at Mill Hill as well, which I think is it always helps to be having to do it rather than just learn about it, doesn't it? So that's the first thing. My second question is really that we know that there is a review of special needs provision right across the county going on, and I just wondered, do we have any date by which that review will be formally completed and back, or will it in reality always be an ongoing review?
Natalie, would you like to comment?
So we are forecasting places up to 2030, and we are at the point of making the decisions around where we need to end up, and they will be shared with you shortly. But of course we need to review that annually, because as the forecasts turn into reality, the forecasts change, and the growth to accommodate the increased numbers requires things such as this, which take time and capital investment. So we have time as we go through the period between now and 2020 to adjust our forecast and report back to you all accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you for the questions. Jackie, that's a very salient point. I mean, in paragraph 8, as it says, if it carries on at this rate, we're going to see 28,000 roughly by 2030-31. Those numbers are stratospheric and they are very concerning. Although I'm pleased, as I saw myself yesterday when I visited one of our schools, it's good to see many of our children with the HCPs being catered for really well in the mainstream schools. And we want to continue that. Jackie, do you have any other question or comment that you wanted to make? No,
it's just the opportunity to upskill the teaching staff when these new units are being built. Really, I think it's really important so that those children long term are becoming mainstream. Not necessarily that generation of children, but the next generation of children will become mainstream rather than the HCP.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and certainly that was evidenced on my visit yesterday, talking to the head teacher, how proud she was of the fact that, particularly in the mainstream schools, having children with EHCP in there actually allows them to spend more time and effort on training their staff, and that in itself gives us a bigger pool with that experience. You're absolutely right. So thank you. Do we have any other questions? Any hands up? No. Well, on that basis, I'll proceed. I do think this is really good to see. As I said, with the growth in EHCPs, it is a problem, but it's really good to see the innovation that was brought to this and the quick thinking about bringing something that can be done in such a short time frame. Really pleased to see that. You know, two schools that are about a mile and a half apart, working together. Again, really nice to see, and it makes me very proud that our Hampshire officers have the thinking to bring this together and to deliver it. So well done. On that basis, I'm happy to accept the recommendations in para 2 and 3 as shown, and to fully approve those. That lets us move on to the last date, which is always a great topic as soon as I raise it with anyone, talking about school holidays. Nick, I understand you're taking us through this one, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Forster. Good afternoon, everybody. The purpose of this report is to do two things. The first part is to inform of some small changes to the consultation and determination process for the school year for community and voluntary controlled schools in Hampshire. And the second part of the report is to seek the Executive Member for Education's approval on the proposed school years for 2025-26, 26-27 and 27-28. So with regards the first part around informing of the changes to the consultation and determination process, the local authority needs to schedule a school year as the employer for community and voluntary controlled schools in Hampshire of 195 teacher days. That's the equivalent of 190 pupil days and 380 sessions for those pupils, taking into account 5 inset days per year. This year, the local authority has moved away from determining the school year 18 months away to actually determining school years much further away in order to provide more certainty and to support longer term planning, both for schools, senior leaders, parents, pupils, and also the local authority itself. Furthermore, the other change it has made is with regards who it initially consults and speaks with. And with that in mind, previously, there has been a pre-consultation and discussion with the Conditions of Service Working Party. That discussion now takes place with the Schools Union Group, as that's considered to be better representative of all school staff within Hampshire. And you will see the comments that that particular group raised at paragraph 18 in the paper that's been presented. As normal, though, the local authority has consulted all schools in Hampshire via the schools communication process. That particular process took place from the 4th of September till the 29th of September, and you will see the comments we have received in Appendix 1 and a bit more details provided in paragraphs 20 to 23. So the 3 proposed calendar school years attempt to take account of balanced half terms. They attempt to provide for 2 full weeks at Christmas, so 3 weekends, and they attempt to account for the changing Easter date, which is always a challenge when it comes to both proposing and agreeing school calendar years. The further consideration has been around trying to not limit the summer holidays as far as is actually possible in those circumstances. The proposals that were taken forward were considered at that time to be best meeting the requirements that are applied to designing the school year. The one thing you will note is that you will see an alternative proposal for the school year 2025-26, and that is as a result of feedback from some of the schools. The key aim in looking to agree these school years is always around trying to provide the best balance overall, bearing in mind the limitations of squeezing 195 days into a changing Easter and a changing May bank holiday. So you will note that there is now a slightly differing proposal that is being recommended to the executive member for 25-26, and that is with regards to a slightly later start date of the 3rd of September in the autumn term of 2025 and a slightly later finishing date of the 19th of December. And that is being proposed because it is considered to give a better balance of those 2 half terms in the autumn term of 2025-26. Previously, what was being proposed had a significant difference in the length of the half terms, whereas that brings that slightly closer together and makes them more equal in their lengths on that half term. However, the other 2 proposed calendar years are still considered to be best meeting that overall aim of providing a balance and to also meet the requirements for that school year. So that's just something worth highlighting. So the proposal is that the 3 proposed calendar years with that slight change to 2025-26 be approved as providing the best balance and meeting the requirements for the school year for those 3 school years.
Nick, thank you very much for that and for the explanation about the change that we're making, reflecting the feedback, which although it wasn't from a volume of schools, valuable feedback, and I'm pleased that we've taken that into consideration. Councillor Porter, Jackie, I think you also wanted to comment, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this one, because although it sounds like a fait accompli, I know it takes a lot of work to get to this point. So firstly, thank you to Nick and the team for being so accommodating. And I gather that it really has been an opportunity to have a conversation about what teachers want as well as what parents want as well. I think that's been really useful. And as a school governor, and I have to declare that interest here, I'm a school governor, having that certainty of being able to book things so that you can start thinking about inset days a long way ahead and really start to plan as well really helps. But also, there was no need for a one-year solution, really. A three-year solution is an excellent idea and must be saving Hampshire County Council money as well. So that can only be a good thing. But it is good to see that we've thought about the lengths of terms, because a long half term is a hard one for a teacher. So having that break in 25-26 is useful. But thanks for all the hard work on this, because I think it's been well prepared.
Okay, there was no question in there, was there?
Yeah, my question really was, does it save money? I mean, it's 3 year rather than 1 year. I think the answer is yes, but
it's certainly a benefit to everyone, and I'm sure that parents will be pleased that it potentially allows them to plan their holidays and book them ahead, which generally will also save parents money. So it's a win for everyone.
I've heard it helps marital arrangements as well.
I can't comment on that.
It does. If I can just come in, Councillor Forster.
Yes, please do, Stuart.
It also helps to plan your council meetings, of course, as well. So it's a win-win.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions from anyone? No, I can't see any hands. Okay, well, on that basis, with the reflecting the change that we made to 25-26, and let's hope we don't have any more surprise bank holidays that creep in and affect us, because that's something we can't plan for. I'm happy to, I'm particularly happy that this is actually not a consultation we're recommending, it's the result of a consultation. So really pleased to approve the school term and holiday dates that have been consulted upon as put in the paper, and to approve that as written. That, I think, brings us to an end of the items for consideration today. So I'd like to close the meeting and ask Adam to please terminate the video feed.